This is the Cleartune app. The Cleartune app, which can be downloaded onto an iPhone, Android, or iPad, might look a little bit different on your phone device. Why is that? Well, on my iPad, which you're seeing now, we have an options menu on the left. You might not have that if you are looking at it on a phone device. Now, it's very easy to toggle that options menu, and we'll talk about that. But I just want to mention, if you're on an iPad and you also don't see the options menu, just turn your iPad 90 degrees and that menu will show up. So in other words, if you're viewing the iPad vertically, just turn it horizontally. Now on the iPhone, I'd like you to access the options menu by doing the following. Look on the lower right-hand corner and you'll find a circle with an I in the middle of it. I mean the letter I, not like an eye that you see out of. So if you just push on there, that'll toggle the options menu. Now the reason we need the options menu is because we need to set a few things before we can use the app together. You're going to find that if the settings are wrong, what I say in the lesson's not going to make much sense to your app. So have a look where it says A for calibration. What does that mean? Well, I'd like you to set it to 441. Now let me talk about what that number means. So the very first note that you'll hear in an orchestra concert is the note A. A. That A is given by the oboe, and the whole orchestra tunes to A. Now, what we're doing by telling Cleartune where A is, we're actually giving Cleartune a frame of reference, because A can actually be in a lot of places. Historically, actually, let me just tell you what A is today. Today, A is conventionally known as 440 hertz, which means cycles per second. So if you see a wave, a sound wave, there will be 440 cycles of that wave in a second. Now, we're tuning to 441. Why? Well, there's a bit of a convention to doing that, because 441, well, some people say that if you're a violinist and you tune just a little bit higher, we're talking like minuscule amount higher, you'll just stick out that much more in terms of when you're playing with the piano that's tuned to 440. You'll just kind of, be a little bit higher than the piano, and it'll give the sound some extra pizzazz. Some people tune even higher to 442. I think some orchestras do that, and some even higher. But historically, the note A was much lower. It was very low compared to today's standards in the time of Bach, which was the late 1600s and early 1700s. And the A's varied depending on which town you went to. So depending on what you consider your A to be, all of the other notes will be equally affected. So, but we have to agree on an A. So let's go with 441, which is what I do. Now the next thing I'd like you to do, make sure where it says temperament, you're set to violin family. That's important. Now your other settings should probably be already okay, but just to make sure, I'll just read you what I've got. I've got notation English, transposition C, we already talked about temperament, then temperament key C. So just make sure that all of that is set up. Okay, now we've done that, and we're going to talk about how Cleartune actually works. Cleartune has, on the actual meter side of things, two different parts. So if you have a phone, just toggle back to there by pressing that letter I at the lower right hand corner of the screen, and you'll get back to that menu. Now we have a meter on the bottom which tells us which note that we are closest to, and the meter on the top which tells us if we're a little bit too high or too low. So I'm going to tell you about all that and tell you what that means. So let's try to sing A again. A. Look at that. I didn't quite make A. I was somewhere between something called an A flat, which I'll explain in a minute, and a regular A. Let's do it again. A. So you can see I've been altering my voice in order to try to get that arrow to turn green and go right on the letter A. So it's actually really hard. This is a very sensitive app, but because it's so sensitive, it's very good for our purposes. Now, let's just say for our purposes right now, if you just get to the point where you're getting that arrow to turn green, that's already enough for right now. As you progress, you'll be able to do more accurate things. So you can even practice just singing notes and trying to get them in tune with the app. Now let's talk about what the A and the A flat are in relation to each other. So let me go back to the A. Now do you see that A that had a little, looks like a B next to it? Let's try to sing that one. So that A with a little kind of thing that looks like a B, that's called A flat. A flat just means that we are a little bit lower. Now sometimes you'll find something called a sharp. Let's find one with a sharp. The sharp looks like the tic-tac-toe sign. So let's find, well, we can't, there is such thing as A sharp, but I don't think they call it that on this app. And that's for, we'll have to talk about that another time. But I saw a C sharp. So let's find C sharp. So the C sharp is just a little bit higher than C. So a flat makes the note lower, a sharp makes the note higher. And you'll see that some notes don't have flats and some don't have sharps after or before them. And the reasons for that are beyond the scope of this lesson at the moment. That's really delving into the realm of music theory, and we just don't have the time in this lesson to talk about it. But knowing that a sharp means that things go higher and flat means things go lower means you can now look at this menu up here. Now I'll tell you, this one tends to drive people crazy and it can be confusing. So I wouldn't concentrate on it too much until you've really gotten the hang of this one, because this one is going to tell you what note you're closest to, and that's really the most important. But once you know that you're close to a note, then you can use that one to kind of fine-tune it. So if the needle goes too far to the right, that means you're too high. If it goes too far to the left, you're too low. So let's try to get our note. Let's try to sing a C. C. Now it's telling me that I'm too far to the left, which means I'm too low. So I had to go higher. Did you notice at the beginning, though, I just want to prove a point here, that it actually said first that it was far to the right? Now, this is why this can drive you crazy. I'll tell you what happened. I was singing a note that was closer to a B than closer to a C. So Cleartune thought that I was trying to sing a B. So I was too far off from C for Cleartune to understand that I was singing a C. So Cleartune was telling me that my B was too high, but I wasn't trying to sing a B. So that's why I'm saying you have to rely on this one first. So let's do one more time. C. So you can see, once the C is more or less established, then we can use that top one to tell us, do we sing lower if we're too high, or do we sing higher if we're too low? As I said, save that one for later.